The legendary designer Yves Saint Laurent once said that Elsa Schiaparelli slapped Paris, smacked it, tortured it, and bewitched it. He admired Schiaparelli's daring, rule-breaking style that made Paris fall in love with her vision. Schiaparelli wasn't just a designer, she was a provocateur who blurred the lines between fashion and art. Her creations, from shoe-shaped hats to dresses adorned with lobsters, turned couture into pure rebellion. But what drove this fearless outsider to defy every fashion norm of her time? Step into the surreal world of Elsa Schiaparelli, where every piece challenges convention and ignites the imagination. Elsa Schiaparelli's story begins in Rome in 1890, born into an aristocratic family that mixed the worlds of academics and nobility. Her father, Celestino, a respected scholar, managed the prestigious Lincei Library, while her mother, a Neapolitan aristocrat, ensured that Elsa had access to some of the richest cultural influences Italy could offer. This setting introduced her to art, philosophy, and literature early on. As a young girl, she roamed the halls of the library, marveling at rare manuscripts and ancient artifacts, laying the groundwork for imaginative mind. In her 20s, she found herself studying philosophy at the University of Rome, driven by a sense of curiosity and rebellion. By 1911, she published her first book, a collection of poetry entitled Arethusa, which scandalized her family with its boldness and intensity. To restrain her, they sent her to a Swiss convent school, but Elsa was unstoppable. By 1913, she was off to London and soon after to Paris, where she felt a spark of destiny. She knew it would become her home. Her early days in Paris brought her into the orbit of some of the most eccentric and influential figures of her time. She met the Dadaist Gaby Buffet-Picabia, who would eventually help Schiaparelli embrace her own avant-garde style. Inspired and emboldened, she began to dream up designs. This was Paris in the early 1920s, a world bustling with new ideas, Art Deco influences, and a shift away from traditional ornate fashion towards sleeker, bolder designs. In 1927, Elsa introduced her first signature piece, the trompe-l'oeil bow sweater. At first glance, this hand-knit garment looked simple, a black sweater with a white bow at the neckline. But on closer look, one could see the bow was an illusion, woven directly into the knit.
The first fashion collection was a series of knitted jumpers with trompe-l'oeil motifs. And with this first collection, she started to gain a reputation for herself as a fashion designer.
This design was a masterstroke of irony and whimsy, setting her apart. It was one of the first of its kind, blending art and fashion in a way that left everyone talking. Vogue called it an artistic masterpiece, and it became an international sensation. Elsa's first full collection came later that year. She presented it right from her apartment on Rue de l'Université, launching Schiaparelli pour le sport. Unlike the more formal fashion houses of her time, Elsa's designs were playful, clever, and forward-thinking. She reimagined what women's fashion could be, focusing on separates that were easy to mix and match, an unconventional approach for the era. Her designs captured the modern women's need for functionality without sacrificing style. By 1928, her name was on everyone's lips. Schiaparelli's sweaters and fur scarves were coveted pieces in high society. Critics praised her for her blend of simplicity and sophistication and genuine amusement. To Elsa, fashion was a playful art. She embraced unusual materials and designs that challenged traditional concepts of beauty and elegance. She loved surprising people, whether through color, silhouette, or quirky details. With each season, her designs became bolder. In 1929, she introduced her first unisex perfume, S, a fragrance designed to appeal to both men and women, a very radical idea at the time. The perfume was only the beginning. She would go on to release a series of scents with imaginative bottles created by artists. Her perfume, Shocking, inspired by the curvaceous silhouette of actress Mae West, came in a bottle shaped like a woman's torso. Salvador Dali and Leonore Fini, renowned surrealist artists, collaborated on bottle designs, making Schiaparelli's fragrances as much art as perfume. Elsa broke from traditional cuts and used materials that seemed unthinkable for fashion. Her madcap knit made an instant classic, praised for its whimsy and simplicity. She loved zippers, a modern convenience that made her designs practical for the busy lives of modern women. She created dresses with pockets, added buttons in unusual places, and played with the symmetry, creating the aesthetics of Art Deco. In 1930, her name continued to grow. Women adored her mix of functionality and creativity. Tennis star Lily de Alvarez wore Schiaparelli's daring split skirt at Wimbledon, challenging expectations and setting a trend that would resonate with sportswear fashion for years. Schiaparelli's designs were about breaking norms, yet they were never impractical. She respected the needs of modern women and found clever ways to incorporate those into her designs. Throughout the early 1930s, Schiaparelli was unstoppable. She introduced more innovations: sling scarves, matching jackets with evening gowns, and washable knit blouses that made her line practical, not just fashionable. Her attention to detail, like adding zippers and clips for easy dressing, transformed her work from more design into a revolutionary style. She collaborated with artist friends like Elsa Schiaparelli to produce quirky accessories, including a necklace of oversized aspirin tablets. The impact of her designs was undeniable. Her clothes weren't nostalgic or decorative. They felt alive, echoing the energy and resilience of the women who wore them. Vogue wrote that she made a bold attack on fabrics, using colors and cuts that defined expectations but never lost their elegance. Schiaparelli's work was not just admired, it was dissected, analyzed, and, of course, copied. Imitators scrambled to replicate her designs, but her originality kept her ahead of them all. Hollywood took notice, and actresses like Joan Crawford wore her sharp-shouldered jackets and figure-flattering dresses, bringing her style to screens across the world. Schiaparelli's approach to fashion was almost scientific in its precision. She used a sense of humor and whimsy that resonated with both avant-garde circles and high society. She made beach pajamas for Simone de Maria, a look that was both luxurious and easygoing. Or Ruth Covell, she designed a bustle dress that looked like a modern sculpture. And in other design, her iconic skeleton dress, crafted in collaboration with Salvador Dali, traced the bones of the body in intricate raised quilting on black silk crepe. Inspired by Dali's skeletal motifs, Schiaparelli's creation offered padded outlines of bones, creating a ghostly tactile skeleton from collarbone to wrist and down the spine. Luxurious yet macabre, the dress blurred the lines between art and couture, using unusual details like exposed zippers to turn functional elements into art. By 1932, Elsa Schiaparelli was one of Paris's most sought-after couturiers. Her collections were praised for their youthful energy and innovative cuts. Her color sense was unmatched, and her designs carried a hint of the surreal, a taste of what was to come. Her name was synonymous with boldness and innovation. Her designs weren't just clothes, they were statements. Newspapers and magazines noted that every woman in the social scene had at least one Schiaparelli suit or dress, whether it was an artist, a socialite, or even royalty. In 1933, Schiaparelli made the unexpected choice to introduce Chinese motifs in her work, abandoning the popular gay 90s nostalgia trend for something fresher. She created a high-collar wrap coat with winged shoulders and a flat-structured silhouette. Her creativity flowed in thematic collections that were truly unique, such as her 1934 bird and typhoon silhouettes, where clothes seemed to embody wind itself. She crafted necklines that jutted out like wings in skirts with intricate drapes, fin details, and shapes inspired by fish and birds. That year, she was even featured on the cover of Time magazine, a rare honor for a designer, highlighting her impact on the fashion world. In 1935, Schiaparelli took her collaboration with surrealist Salvador Dali to a new level. Together, they made fashion into art. For instance, their iconic telephone dial compact and the newsprint dress were showstoppers. By placing unconventional images on wearable items, Schiaparelli turned everyday objects into symbols of style and humor. She also introduced items like the glass scarf and the glass dress, woven with rhodophane, a type of satin mixed with glass, making every piece like it came from another world, but it was still wearable. When it came to accessories, no one matched Schiaparelli's playfulness. In 1936, she introduced the bureau drawer pockets, inspired by Dali's surrealist art, which resembled drawers built into her suits. She created trompe-l'oeil gloves, painted to look like they had veins, and even added red nails to some for a dramatic flair. For hats, she didn't hold back. She put shoes on people's heads, crafted crowns, and used butterflies for trimmings. Her designs gave women the chance to wear art and express themselves in ways that had never been seen before. In 1938, she unveiled her circus collection, a dazzling array of clothes inspired by the whimsy and wonder of a circus, complete with harlequin patches and clown motifs. Her next collection, inspired by Botticelli's paintings, featured delicate embroidery with natural elements, like insects woven into dresses. One of her most famous designs was the 1937 lobster dress, co-created with Dali. This dress, made of flowing white fabric with a bright red lobster across the skirt, was worn by Wallace Simpson and photographed by Cecil Beaton. The lobster, normally a culinary delight, became a striking symbol when used in high fashion, showing how Schiaparelli played with shock value. That same year, she released her perfume Shocking, with a bottle shaped like a woman's torso, again inspired by Mae West. The perfume Shocking Pink became her signature color, a daring electric pink that was impossible to ignore. Her fall collection that year, Paris 1937, took cues from the Renaissance and featured butterflies, bees, and flowers. Her next themes included music, featuring prints of instruments and cherub pins. In the late 1930s, as Europe faced the looming threat of war, Schiaparelli adapted her designs. She introduced the Cash and Carry collection in 1939, which included suits with large pockets for hands-free convenience, a perfect style for women at a time when resources were scarce. During World War II, she moved to New York, raising funds for French charities and studying to be a nurse. Her life took a quieter turn, but her legacy continued. By the 1940s, her clothes still held traces of humor and artistry, even in wartime. Her 1940 collection featured quirky details like safety pins in place of buttons, and whimsical chiffon scarves marked with the week's meatless days, a nod to rationing. Returning to Paris after the war, Schiaparelli found a city transformed and began presenting new collections. But the post-war world was different. The public's tastes shifted, and her designs, while still bold, didn't capture the same excitement as before. In 1947, Christian Dior launched the new look, and Schiaparelli's influence began to fade. Her couture house eventually closed in 1954, but not before she published her memoir, Shocking Life, a reflection on her journey, captured Dare to be Different. Though Elsa passed away in 1973, her influence had been celebrated again and again. In 1980, Yves Saint Laurent dedicated a collection to her, saying that Schiaparelli slapped Paris, smacked it, tortured it, and bewitched it. He admired how she made Paris fall in love with her unique vision. In 2003, the Philadelphia Museum of Art held a retrospective of her work, honoring her as one of fashion's true innovators. And in 2012, the Costume Institute showcased Schiaparelli and Prada, Impossible Conversations, proving that Schiaparelli's daring spirit still resonated with modern designers. Today, Maison Schiaparelli continues to captivate with a bold approach to haute couture under the creative direction of Daniel Roseberry. Roseberry's designs pay homage to Schiaparelli's original eccentric style and her close ties with artists like Salvador Dali, while also bringing a modern edge that resonates with today's fashion icons. The latest Schiaparelli signature pieces include intricate embroidery, blazers with bold shoulders, dresses adorned with sculpted animal heads and floral embellishments. Schiaparelli's latest fashion shows under Daniel Roseberry's artistic direction have continued to push boundaries, making each runway look as much a piece of art as it is fashion. Celebrities and fashion icons who attend the shows are often dressed in Schiaparelli, turning the front row into an extension of the runway. Schiaparelli's latest designs have found their way onto red carpets and into high-profile events, worn by stars such as Beyoncé, Lady Gaga, Bella Hadid, Adele, and many more. Each piece from Schiaparelli's collections is a nod to the house's iconic legacy while creating a bridge between fantasy and wearable art. Schiaparelli once said, "Dare to be different," and she did just that. Her life and career were filled with bold choices and a refusal to conform, making her a true legend in fashion. So what do you think? Does the House of Schiaparelli still inspire and shock today's fashion world? Let us know in the comments.